The morning light filters through a narrow arched window, painting Elena's stone chamber in muted shades of amber and gray. She lies motionless in her ornate wooden bed, heavy burgundy curtains partially drawn, eyes open but unfocused on the vaulted ceiling above. Her hand slides across the linen sheets, so slowly it barely seems intentional, reaching for the pewter cup of water on her bedside table. The tremor in her fingers makes the cup rattle. 3 years. It's been 3 years since mornings felt like anything other than drowning. The heavy wooden door opens with a quiet creak. Marcus enters with his characteristic gentle demeanor, worn leather medical bag in hand. "Good morning, Elena. How do we fare today?" His voice carries practice to warmth, but there's something rehearsed about it, as if he already knows the answer. "Tired," she whispers. Marcus sets his bag on the wooden chair with mechanical efficiency. Blood pressure measurement. Thermometer. The listening instrument that always feels cold. He moves through the checklist with practiced precision. "Let's check your vitals," he says, wrapping the cloth cuff around her thin upper arm. Elena closes her eyes as he works, feeling her pulse throb weakly. Everything about her body feels weak lately, like she's made of parchment instead of flesh and bone. "Your circulation remains poor," Marcus's notes, writing on his parchment. "We might need to adjust your tinctures." Then comes the part she's learned to dread. Marcus pulls out a small wooden case containing glass vials and brass instruments. "Time for your treatment," he explains. The same explanation he's given twice a week for 3 years. She turns her head away. What registers isn't relief afterward, but a strange emptiness, like something essential is being taken away instead of given. Marcus packs his supplies with methodical care. "Rest now," he instructs, patting her hand in what should feel comforting but somehow feels patronizing. "I'll be back this evening for your next dose. Dr. Voss wants to see you next week. She's concerned about your latest results." Elena nods weakly, too exhausted to ask what specifically concerned the doctor this time. The door closes behind Marcus. Silence fills the room like water, drowning her in its weight. Through the window, she can hear neighborhood sounds, children laughing, a dog barking. Normal life happening just beyond her reach. Like watching a movie of a world she used to belong to. Her arm throbs where the treatment was administered. Elena lifts it slowly, examining the small bandage. Beneath it, she can feel a raised bumper, half swelling. But there's something else she can't quite name. A hollowness. Like he took something out instead of putting something in. She shakes her head. The exhaustion makes her thoughts fuzzy. Paranoid even. Marcus is helping her. Everyone is helping her. Later that afternoon, Aunt Claire visits with homemade soup and her characteristic worried frown. She sits on the edge of Elena's bed, placing a cool hand on her niece's forehead, the gesture mothers make. "You're so cold, sweetie," Claire murmurs, pulling the blanket higher. "Have you been eating?" Marcus said. "You're taking all your supplements." But she trails off, examining Elena's face with the scrutiny of someone who's known her since birth. "I'm always cold now," Elena admits. "The doctors say it's the anemia." Claire nods slowly, but her frown deepens. She reaches into her basket and pulls out a folded piece of parchment notes from a learned healer she consulted. "I've been reading about anemia," she says carefully. "And there's something that doesn't add up. If you've been getting treatments twice a week for 3 years, your condition should have improved by now. But Marcus said it keeps worsening." Elena blinks slowly, processing. She's never thought to question it. What if? Claire hesitates, glancing toward the closed door. What if it's not just anemia? What if there's something else they haven't found yet? The words plant themselves in Elena's foggy mind like seeds in dark soil. Something else. What if there's something else? Elena had been healthy once. Not just functional, but vibrant. She remembers the before times in fragments now running through the forest paths near her family's estate. Feeling her lungs fill with air that didn't burn, her legs strong beneath her. The first time she collapsed was during a routine morning walk. One moment she was walking, the next the world tilted sideways and she was on the ground, her vision swimming with black spots. A passing merchant called for help. The castle physician ran tests, examined her thoroughly, frowned at findings. Severe anemia, he had said, holding up his notes. Your blood essence is dangerously depleted. Have you been experiencing fatigue? Dizziness? Yes. Yes to everything. The exhaustion she'd been attributing to poor sleep suddenly had a name. A diagnosis. Almost a relief. They'd started treatment immediately. Herbal tinctures. Dietary changes. When those didn't work, they moved to more intensive treatments. Some people cannot restore their essence through simple means, her physician explained. We'll need more direct intervention. That's when Marcus entered her life. A traveling healer assigned to administer her treatments. Professional, kind, always punctual. She'd trusted him immediately. Maybe that was her first mistake. Back in the present, Elena tries to sit up. The room spins immediately, a familiar sensation she's learned to navigate. She grips the carved headboard until the world steadies, then slowly swings her legs over the side of the bed. Standing takes effort. Everything takes effort. But Aunt Claire's words echo in her mind, and for the first time in months, Elena feels something other than resignation. She feels curiosity, maybe even the faintest spark of suspicion. She shuffles to the tall mirror in the corner, each step deliberate and careful. Her reflection shocks her, though it shouldn't. She sees herself every day. But today, she really looks. The hollow cheeks, the grayish pallor of her skin, the way her nightgown hangs on her frame like a sheet draped over furniture. This isn't 3 months of anemia. This is 3 years of progressive deterioration. Shouldn't she be getting better by now? Aunt Claire is right. Something doesn't add up. Elena's gaze falls to her inner arms, visible beneath her sleeves, bruises in various stages of healing. The pale skin purple, green, yellow. Normal from the treatments, Marcus always assures her. But there are so many, and some of them don't look like treatment sites at all. They look like something was taken, not given. A sound from the courtyard below makes her freeze. Footsteps. Marcus isn't supposed to return until evening. Is someone watching the chamber? The diagnosis had been confusing from the start. The castle's head physician, a learned man who'd studied in distant academies, had seemed genuinely puzzled. Your blood essence is critically depleted, he'd said, tapping his quill against the parchment. But there's no obvious source of loss. No internal injury we can detect. Your diet includes proper nourishment. Your lineage shows no predisposition to such conditions. So why is this happening to me? Elena had asked, still functioning then, still able to walk the castle halls even if constantly exhausted. Sometimes, the physician had said slowly, the body develops afflictions we cannot fully explain. We treat the symptoms and hope to discover the underlying cause eventually. For now, we focus on maintaining your essence at survivable levels. Marcus had been there for that consultation and usual now that she thinks about it. Why would a treatment healer attend a diagnostic consultation? He'd stood in the corner, quiet and professional, taking notes on his own parchment. She'd assumed he was just being thorough, learning about her condition to better treat her. Now she wonders what he was really writing down. Elena's heart pounds tries to... Even her cardiovascular system seems to work in slow motion lately. She moves to her chamber door, pressing her ear against the cool wood. Footsteps, definitely. Someone is below in the castle. She should call out. Ask who's there. But something stops her. An instinct she didn't know she still possessed. Instead, she eases the door open as quietly as possible. The stone corridor stretches before her. She uses the wall for support, making her way to the top of the spiral staircase. From this vantage point, she can see into the main hall below. A figure moves through her space with casual familiarity. Marcus, but it's not evening yet. He's not supposed to be here. He's looking through her things. Opening the writing desk, where she keeps her correspondence. Flipping through parchments. His movements aren't rushed, but they're purposeful. Searching for something, Elena shrinks back from the stairs, her breath shallow. Why is he here? What is he looking for? And why does watching him move through her home uninvited make her skin crawl in a way that twice-daily treatments never have? Elena retreats silently back to her chamber, closing the door with the gentlest pressure. Her mind races despite the fog of exhaustion. She needs to know what Marcus has been doing. More importantly, she needs to know what he's been doing for the past 3 years. Her gaze sweeps her bedroom, the space she's been confined to for so long she barely sees it anymore. The medical equipment Marcus uses sits on her dresser. Cloth cuffs, brass instruments, glass vials, all the tools of her treatment. But wait, there's something else. Tucked behind the other equipment is a small leather pouch she's never paid attention to before. Marcus always brings it, uses something from it, then tucks it away. She's never questioned it, why would she? He's the healer. Now, with trembling hands, Elena opens the pouch. Inside are vials. Yes, but they're empty. Multiple empty vials. And they're not labeled with medicines. They're labeled with dates and symbols. Collection dates. Sample markers. Her stomach drops. These aren't for giving her medicine. These are for taking something from her. But taking what? Beneath the vials is a small brass device with strange engravings she doesn't recognize. And a folded parchment. She unfolds it with shaking fingers. It's a document. Her name at the top. But the categories aren't for normal medical tracking. The words listed are unfamiliar: essence concentration, lunar resonance shift potential. What in the God's names is this? Elena's hands shake so violently she nearly drops the parchment. Lunar resonance shift potential. These aren't medical terms. At least, not any she's ever heard from learned healers. And why would Marcus be testing her for things that have nothing to do with anemia? Footsteps on the stone stairs snap her back to the present. He's coming. She scrambles to put everything back exactly as it was, her exhausted body moving faster than it has in months on pure terror alone. The pouch closes. The parchment folds. Everything back in position. The door opens just as she collapses back onto her bed, breathing hard, trying to appear as though she's been resting this whole time. Marcus enters with his characteristic smile, leather bag in hand. Elena, you're awake. I came back early, wanted to check on you after this morning's treatment. His tone is casual, friendly, but his dark eyes do a quick sweep of the room, landing on the dresser where his equipment sits. Did she put it back exactly right? Can he tell someone's been through his things? I was just resting, she manages, her voice weak. Not difficult to fake, given how her heart is hammering. Good, good. He sets down his bag, but his movements seem more careful than usual, more watchful. How are you feeling? Any unusual sensations? She wants to scream at him, demand answers, ask him what he's been testing her for, what he's been taking from her. But she's weak, trapped in this chamber, dependent on him for everything. If she confronts him now, what would he do? So instead, she lies. Just tired. Like always. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes anymore. Well, let's check those vitals. Keep your strength up. Strength for what? She wonders. Strength to keep letting you drain whatever it is you're stealing? There was a moment Elena had almost forgotten it when she'd questioned the treatment. It was during a particularly bad week when she could barely lift her head from the pillow. Marcus had come for her regular treatment, and for some reason, she'd asked to see the vial. What's actually in this? She'd asked, her voice barely a whisper. Marcus had held it up to the candlelight, the liquid inside amber-colored and thick. An alchemical essence compound. Your body needs this to restore its depletion. The explanation sounded learned, legitimate. He'd even shown her the label on the vial written in what looked like proper medical script. But later that night, after he'd left, something nagged at her. She'd managed to drag herself to her shelf of medical texts and search through descriptions. The remedies described showed clear or slightly golden liquids, not amber, not thick like honey. She'd meant to ask about it at her next consultation with the head physician. Meant to mention it? But before she could, Marcus had shown up with a new preparation he said would help with her confusion and forgetfulness. She'd taken it, and the thought had slipped away like water through her fingers. How many other suspicions had she had that vanished after Marcus gave her something? How many times had her instincts tried to warn her, only to be chemically silenced? The next morning, after Marcus completes her treatment and leaves, Elena waits until she hears his footsteps fade down the stone corridor. Then, summoning every ounce of energy she possesses, she reaches for the small bell on her nightstand, the one used to summon servants. Her first instinct is to call for the castle guard, and say what? That her healer is testing her for things she doesn't understand, that she found equipment she can't explain. She sounds mad, delusional. They'd probably think the illness was affecting her mind. Instead, she rings for a messenger. When the young servant arrives, Elena requests that word be sent to Dr. Voss, the traveling physician who occasionally consults on difficult cases. Helen has always seemed more skeptical, more willing to question established treatments. If anyone will listen, it's her. Tell Dr. Voss I need to speak with her urgently, Elena manages, her voice shaking. About my treatment protocol. Tell her I think something is wrong with my medicines. The servant looks confused but nods and hurries away. After she's alone again, Elena lies back against her pillows, trembling from the exertion. Her gaze drifts to the narrow window. Outside, partially hidden behind the courtyard wall, she can see Marcus's distinctive dark robes. He didn't leave the castle. He's waiting. Watching. He knows. Fear gives Elena an energy she hasn't felt in years. If Marcus is watching her, if he suspects she knows something, she needs evidence. Real evidence. Something undeniable that she can show Dr. Voss. She waits until she hears him descend to the lower levels. She's learned his patterns over 3 years. Then, moving as quickly as her weakened body allows, she examines the treatment sites on her arms more carefully than ever before. The bruising is extensive, yes. But as she traces her fingers over her skin, she feels something else. Small, hard bumps beneath the surface. Not swelling from regular treatments. These feel deliberate, placed, like something was implanted there, using the small mirror from her dresser. She examines her inner arm closely in the morning light. There barely visible are tiny marks that aren't punctures from treatments. Actual small incisions, healed but present. And beneath the skin, she can make out small shapes through her pale, translucent flesh. Objects. Something was put inside her arms. Her breath comes in short gasps. This isn't medical treatment. This is something else entirely. But what and why? With trembling hands, she uses charcoal to sketch what she sees on a scrap of parchment. The pattern of marks, the locations of the bumps. Evidence. She needs evidence. Then her eye catches something else when she angles her arm in the morning sunlight. She sees a faint silvery shimmer around the implant sites. It catches the light strangely, almost like metal, but organic somehow. She touches it with her finger, and it's warm. Warmer than her cold skin should be. What has Marcus been putting inside her body? Elena remembers now another memory that had been buried. About a year ago, during a particularly severe episode where she'd been drifting in and out of consciousness, she'd heard Marcus speaking to someone. She'd been too weak to open her eyes fully, hovering in that gray space between sleep and waking, but voices had filtered through. The suppression is progressing well, Marcus had said quietly to another figure she couldn't quite see. The lunar cycle has passed twice now with no manifestation. The essence drains are maintaining potency. The implants regulate the dosage automatically. She suspects nothing. Suppression. Manifestation. Essence drains. The words had seemed important at the time. Frightening, even. But when she'd woken fully later that evening, Marcus had been there with another treatment. Another draft, to help her rest. And the memory had faded like morning mist. But it hadn't been a fever dream. It had been real. He'd been reporting to someone about whatever they were doing to her. And she'd been too chemically subdued to hold on to the information, to question it, to save herself. How much has she forgotten? How many warnings has her drugged mind let slip away? A knock at her chamber door makes Elena jump. "Miss Elena? Dr. Voss has arrived to see you?" Relief floods through her. The physician is here. Finally, someone who might listen, who might help. Dr. Voss enters with her characteristic professional demeanor, leather medical bag in hand. But there's something different in her dark eyes today, urgency, concern. She dismisses the servant and closes the door firmly. "Elena, I received your message. Before we speak, I need to examine you myself." Dr. Voss's voice is tight, controlled. "Show me your arms." The treatment sites. Elena extends her pale arms, and Dr. Voss's expression darkens as she examines the bruising, the bumps, the tiny incision scars. She pulls out a small brass magnifying lens and studies the silvery residue. "Gods above," Dr. Voss whispers. Then she looks directly into Elena's eyes. "Elena, listen to me very carefully. Whatever Marcus has told you about your condition, it's a lie." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "I had your last blood samples analyzed by a colleague I trust, someone with knowledge of unusual afflictions." Dr. Voss pulls out parchments from her bag. "Elena, you don't have anemia? You've never had anemia. Your blood shows something else entirely. I don't understand. Your blood contains residual traces of silver compounds and concentrated moonbane extract. Do you know what those are used for?" Dr. Voss's hands shake slightly as she holds the documents. Elena shakes her head, her mind reeling. "They're suppressants. Powerful ones. Used specifically to inhibit lycanthropic transformation and drain supernatural essence." Dr. Voss pauses, letting the words sink in. "Elena, the test suggests you're a shifter, a werewolf. And someone has been systematically suppressing your nature and harvesting your life force for years." The parchment slips from Elena's numb fingers. Werewolf. The word echoes in her mind. Absurd and impossible, yet somehow the only thing that makes sense. The mysterious tests. The lunar resonance. The shift potential. The essence drains. "That's insane," she whispers to the stone walls. "Werewolves? That's just folklore." But even as she says it, something deep inside her, something that's been sleeping, drugged, suppressed for 3 years, stirs, like a caged animal hearing its name for the first time, like a part of her soul recognizing truth when it's finally spoken aloud. Her body has never been sick. It's been imprisoned. Elena's breath comes in short gasps. "Werewolf? Shifter." The words keep repeating like an incantation. It should sound ridiculous. Instead, it sounds like the answer to every question she's been afraid to ask Dr. Voss. She manages. "Are you certain?" The evidence is undeniable. And Elena, Dr. Voss grips her hand urgently. "You're not safe here. Marcus isn't just a healer. He's part of something larger. A network that traffics in supernatural essence. They find young shifters before their first transformation, suppress them, and harvest their life force for years. You're not his patient. You're his product." The words make Elena's vision swim. 3 years. 3 years of her life stolen. "I'm sending guards to arrest him. Dr. Voss continues. But first we need to get those implants out of you. They're what's been maintaining the suppression and facilitating the draining. As long as they're in your arms, your sound at the door makes them both freeze. The handle turns slowly. Then harder, rattling. Locked, Elena. Marcus's voice drifts through the wood, still carrying that false warmth. Dr. Voss. I heard the good doctor arrived. We should discuss Elena's treatment together. Dr. Voss's face goes pale. She moves to the door, pressing her back against it. Marcus! She calls out, her voice remarkably steady. Elena and I are conducting a private consultation. We'll speak with you later. A long pause. Then Marcus's voice drops its pretense of friendliness. Dr. Voss, I know what you've told her, and I know what you think you've discovered. Open this door, now. Elena's hands begin to tremble, but not from weakness this time. From something else. Something building beneath her skin like pressure behind a dam. The suppression is starting to crack. Elena, listen to me, Dr. Voss whispers urgently. Your body has been chemically restrained for years. If the suppression breaks suddenly, your first shift could be violent, uncontrolled. But if he gets in here, the door shudders as Marcus's shoulder hits it. Once, twice. The heavy wood splinters slightly. Elena looks at her arms, at the implant sites, at 3 years of lies-made flesh, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she feels something other than exhaustion. She feels rage. The door won't hold much longer. Elena watches each impact send cracks spreading through the ancient wood. Dr. Voss has moved to the window, trying to signal for guards in the courtyard below. But Elena isn't focused on escape anymore. She's focused on the sensation building in her chest, in her limbs, in her very bones. Like something that's been asleep for years is finally waking up. The final impact splinters the door open. Marcus stands in the doorway, and the professional mask is completely gone. His expression is cold, predatory. In his hand is a brass syringe larger than the ones he's used before, filled with that thick amber liquid. You weren't supposed to figure it out, he says, advancing into the chamber. The suppression was perfect. 3 years and you never questioned. You should have stayed ignorant, compliant. Do you know how much your essence sells for? Unmated female shifter? Potent bloodline? Never transformed. Your premium product, Elena. Product Elena's voice comes out, stronger than it has in years. The black market for supernatural essence is vast. Your particular quality has made certain buyers very wealthy. He raises the syringe so puts you back under. And you'll forget this conversation, just like you've forgotten every other time you got close to the truth. He lunges forward. Dr. Voss tries to intercede, but he shoves her aside with inhuman strength. The syringe descends toward Elena's arm, but something happens. As fear and fury spike through Elena's system, as her survival instinct overrides 3 years of chemical imprisonment, she feels it break, the suppression. Like chains snapping, like a cage door bursting open. Power floods through her veins like liquid fire. The exhaustion vanishes as if it never existed. Her senses sharpen to impossible clarity. She can hear heartbeats, smell fear, see every dust mote in the afternoon light. Marcus sees the change in her eyes. His confident advance falters. No. The implants should. Elena doesn't know what she's doing, just that her body knows. A sound rises from her chest, deep, primal, completely inhuman. Not quite a growl, not quite a roar. Something in between. The room's temperature seems to spike. Her fingers tingle with sensation she can't name. Her bones feel like they're trying to remember a shape they've never been allowed to take. Marcus stumbles backward, genuine fear crossing his face for the first time. The dosage was calculated for years. This shouldn't be possible. Get out, Elena says, and her voice carries harmonics that don't belong to a human throat. Get out of my home! The suppression is breaking. And she is done being prey. The transformation doesn't complete 3 years of chemical suppression, can't be undone in moments, but it's enough. Elena feels strength flood through her limbs like lightning. Her exhaustion doesn't just fade, it's obliterated. The fog in her mind clears completely for the first time in years. Marcus scrambles backward, tripping over the splintered door. This isn't possible. The implants, the dosage you shouldn't be able to. What? Elena stands, and the movement is fluid, powerful. Everything she hasn't been for 3 years. Her voice carries that inhuman resonance. Shouldn't be able to stop you from stealing my life? She advances on him, and their positions have completely reversed. He's backing toward the corridor now. He's the one afraid. There are others, Marcus threatens, but his voice shakes. A whole network. You're valuable, Elena. They won't let you go free. They'll let them try. The words come out as a low growl that makes him flinch. Elena can feel her canines lengthening slightly, her senses expanding beyond normal human capacity. She can smell the chemical fear pouring off him. She can hear his heart hammering against his ribs. She can see every micro-expression of terror on his face. Guards! Dr. Voss's voice rings out from the window. Guards, to Lady Elena's chamber. Now! Marcus looks between Elena and the physician, calculating odds he no longer controls. Then he runs. Actually runs, stumbling down the stone corridor toward the stairs. Elena doesn't chase him. She doesn't need to. She can hear him descending, hear the main door crash open, hear his footsteps fleeing across the courtyard. Through her newly awakened senses, she tracks him leaving the castle grounds entirely. Good. Let him run. Let him tell his network that their product is awake now. The sounds of guards. Footsteps approach from below. Dr. Voss moves to Elena's side, steadying her as the adrenaline begins to ebb. How do you feel? The physician asks quietly. Elena looks at her hands, steady now, strong, alive with power she's never been allowed to feel. Like I'm finally waking up from a 3-year nightmare? As Elena stands in her reclaimed chamber, a memory surfaces, not suppressed by chemicals this time, but simply forgotten because she hadn't understood its significance. She was 19, traveling with her father through the mountains to a distant estate. They'd stopped at a forest overlook as the full moon rose. Massive and silver in the darkening sky, her father had been strangely quiet all day, almost melancholy. Your mother had a secret, he'd said quietly, not looking at her. She made me promise never to tell you, unless certain things began to happen. What kind of secret? Young Elena had asked, still innocent. Unaware of the supernatural world hidden beneath the mundane. Her father had turned to her then, and she'd never seen such sadness in his eyes. Our bloodline carries something ancient. A gift your mother feared you'd inherited. She wanted you to have a normal life, to never know what you could become. I don't understand. If you ever start feeling different, if you feel something inside you trying to surface, especially during the full moon, if your senses sharpen or your strength increases, he'd gripped her shoulders. Find someone you trust, someone who knows about the old ways. Don't let anyone convince you you're sick. You're not sick, Elena. You're something far more powerful than they want you to know. A year later, her father died in what officials called a riding accident. But now, Elena wonders, had he discovered the network? Had he been trying to protect her from the very people who eventually found her anyway? He'd tried to warn her, and she'd been too young, too naive to understand. Castle guards arrive at Elena's chamber within minutes. Led by the captain of the watch, Dr. Voss immediately takes command of the situation, her physician's authority overriding any questions about the broken door and the fled healer. Marcus Thorne is to be apprehended immediately, Dr. Voss declares, showing the guards her medical documents. He's been conducting illegal essence harvesting on Lady Elena under the guise of treatment. This is supernatural trafficking. The guards exchange glances, some skeptical, others shocked. The supernatural world exists in shadows and rumors in this kingdom, acknowledged but rarely spoken of openly. We need those implants removed from Lady Elena's arms, Dr. Voss continues, turning to Elena, surgically extracted. And then you'll need guidance through your first proper transformation. I have contact healers who work with shifters, those who understand the old ways. Elena nods, still marveling at the strength in her limbs, the clarity in her mind. What about the others? Marcus said, there's a network. How many more are trapped like I was? The captain of the watch steps forward, his weathered face grave. If what you say is true, Lady Elena, this is larger than a single assault. We'll need to investigate the entire operation. Track his contacts, his suppliers, his buyers. We've issued arrest warrants, Dr. Voss says, organizing her parchments. For Marcus Thorne, though, that's likely a false name and anyone connected to this trafficking ring. This kind of operation, it's unfortunately more common than most people know. Elena feels cold fury settle in her chest. I was one victim of how many? How many others are out there right now? Trapped in beds, told they're sick, while these monsters drain them? I don't know, Dr. Voss admits quietly. But Elena, once you're recovered, once you understand what you are and can control your abilities, you could help us find them. You know what to look for now? The patterns, the lies, the methods. Elena looks at her arms, at the implant sites that will be removed, at the 3 years of her life that were stolen. She can't get that time back, but she can make sure it means something. I want to help, she says firmly. Once I'm whole again, once I understand what I am, I want to stop this from happening to anyone else. After everyone leaves, after the statements and the examinations and the promises of surgical extraction, tomorrow Elena stands alone in her chamber for the first time in years. Without feeling imprisoned by it, she walks to the narrow window. Actually walks, without shuffling, without needing walls for support. The evening air fills her lungs completely, deeply, without the burning exhaustion that's defined her existence. The moon is waxing toward full, visible now as the sun sets. Elena stares up at it and feels something profound respond inside her apple. A recognition, like an ancient part of her soul, remembering what it was always meant to be. The implants in her arms throb dully, still trying to suppress what's awakening, but they're failing. She's stronger than the chemicals now. Stronger than the prison that was built inside her own flesh. Tomorrow, Dr. Voss will remove the implants. The day after, Elena will be introduced to others, like her shifters, who can teach her what she is. Help her safely navigate her first full transformation under the next full moon. There's so much ahead to learn, to understand, to reclaim. But tonight, Elena just stands at her window, one hand pressed against the cool stone, breathing in freedom. She's been told she was sick for so long that she'd forgotten what strength felt like. This is what it feels like. Not the absence of illness, but the presence of power. She was never allowed to know she possessed. Someone stole 3 years of her life. Drained her, suppressed her, kept her weak and compliant while they profited from her essence. But they couldn't steal who she fundamentally is. And now that she knows that she's awakening, they'll never take from her again. The moon seems to glow brighter in response to her thoughts. And deep inside, something wild and free and entirely her own stirs with anticipation. Soon, it seems to whisper, soon you'll be whole. Elena turns from the window, looking back at her chamber no longer a prison, but a home she's reclaiming. Tomorrow begins the real journey of discovering who she is. Beneath 3 years of suppression, there will be challenges. learning to transform safely, understanding pack dynamics, helping authorities find others trapped in similar schemes, testifying against those who saw her as nothing but a resource to exploit. But for the first time since she collapsed on that forest path, Elena feels something she'd forgotten existed: hope. Not the passive hope of a patient waiting to be cured, but the active hope of someone who's remembered their own power. She whispers to the twilight, to herself, to whoever is out there still trapped and suffering like she was, "You took my blood. You took my time. You took my power. But you couldn't take me. And now I'm taking it all back." The moon seems to pulse with light in response. And deep inside Elena's chest, something that was caged for 3 years, something wild and fierce and undeniably stretches, yawns, and prepares to finally run free. Soon, the moon calls. Soon, her soul answers back.